Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Why Teacher. In Classroom Stories today, I'm sharing with you a beautiful incident that opened up my eyes to our children of determination. So I believe the year was 1995. It was, in fact, my second year in teaching. My first year had been pretty smooth because I just had 11 students to teach. And when I was promoted to year 5, I was super excited, not really anticipating the challenges that I would meet in the form of me handling a child of determination for the very first time in my life. And so, the first thing I remember about this little girl who came from India were her gorgeous almond shaped eyes. She had a beautiful smile, and you could always tell she was coming to the classroom because of the heavy boots that she would wear. It almost felt like she was stomping all the way to the classroom. Now, when it came to my understanding of her problem, I was made aware by the school that I was receiving a child with Down syndrome. But as I remember in those years, schools never really had a special needs department or a special needs teacher. So the arrangement at that point of time was really that the parent would, send along somebody who would be, assist the teacher inside the classroom with the child's needs and would probably make her aware of the kind of work that was needed to be done. And beyond that, of course, I had challenges apart from the fact that, I wasn't a special needs teacher. The fact that I was working in a small villa school which didn't have enough resources to support me. And as a result, when I started teaching, I started to understand the challenges. Often enough, I would feel that, I would start to question the kind of help I was giving her, the kind of work I was producing for her. And most of the time, I realized that the lady who used to come with her was also just somebody that the child was comfortable with. She also wasn't really an expert with Down syndrome. And as a result, I took this up with my principal. I felt inadequate. I felt I wasn't the right teacher for her. I wasn't, even understanding if I knew the child very well. And so I asked the principal if I could have a meeting with the parent. I really needed to understand more about the child. And he agreed to that. And as a result, a meeting was arranged between the mother and myself. First thing that I noticed about this woman, of course, was that she was filled with anxiety. She was very nervous about being called into school. Anyways, we sat down and the meeting started, and I started to relate how the day would go by with her in the classroom. And she was definitely a very loving child who was always ready to hold my hand. In fact, she had a ritual. Every time I would go by her table, she would hold my hand and give it a little kiss. So she was definitely a child that was so easy to love. However, when it came to the work, she used to struggle with the kind of work I would give her. I was always struggling in how much to simplify the work, how to, approach the work with her. The lady who used to come with her was really just polite help inside the classroom. And so, as we went through the discussion, I came to a point where, I said to her that, do you really think that this is the right school for her? Do you think that there might be, a special needs school where she would settle in better, where people would be, much more skilled at handling, her situation and probably, get her to perform to her best potential? And I really thought I was just being very logical and very, professional about it. But when I said that, there was immediate discomfort with her, and she in fact had tears in her eyes. And it was the most panicked situation in my life because I was very young at that time, and I'd never been in a meeting like that before in my life. And so I immediately reached out to her and I said, I'm really sorry if I've upset you, but is there anything you want to share or anything you want to say? And she said that, there are small incidents in my life which have always frightened me to hear something like this that you're saying. And I asked her to share. So she started to relate this very ritual that used to happen when she had first gone out to admit her child to a school. So she said this is supposed to be one of the most memorable moments of any parent's life, when their children first go to school. But she said that when I started out, it was also the same thing. I was very hopeful. I was very happy that my daughter was going to go to school. And each morning she would wake up, she would dress her up, she would remind her of her manners, her thank yous. And she knew that her daughter's strength was her big smile, and she would always remind her to, always give people a big smile. And in so many ways, it was painful to listen to her story because it showed how much they had struggled to really get into a school. And she said that every day it was the same story, and we would go to a school. It was difficult because they would ask some really difficult questions to me, and then I would witness my daughter, listening to different people, giving her big smiles as she had promised me. And even though everybody adored her, loved her, and showed their love for her, it was always a no and always a refusal. So, refusal after refusal, this became a painful process to get her admitted into school. And the last school that they went to, she said, was the worst experience because she could always now see the process get into, action, and she always knew where it was headed. And so she said that she didn't realize that all that disappointment and all that hopelessness had, come on her face. And normally she was really good at hiding it from her child, but that day was just hopeless. And so she said that, her car was standing under a tree, and she buckled up her daughter really carelessly. Again, she was in her own thoughts. And she said that for a moment I just held my driving wheel, and I put my head down, and there was absolute silence inside the car. And suddenly I saw my daughter looking at me, and she said to me, "Mama, I'm sorry." And just those words, made her start to cry all over again. And I was sitting there and witnessing all of this. And she cried, like a little child. And I hugged her and I said, "I'm so sorry. That must have upset you a lot." And she said that, it was so difficult for me to see my child take responsibility for something that she wasn't even responsible for. I never ever want to go through an experience like that again in my life. So when somebody tells me, "Do you think your child should go to another school?" it really brings back all that, all that pain that we suffered getting her into a school. And I learned an important lesson that day, which was to listen to the parent, especially children of determination. The struggle for their parents is real, and it's really important to listen to what do they want for their child. When we're making decisions about children of determination, we need to first and foremost know what the parent wants for the child, and to respect that. So in this case, the mother simply wanted her daughter to have a seat in the school where she would have children around her who would bring some normality into her life, for her to have friends, for her to have children to play with, be happy. She just wanted her child to have a happy day, and nothing beyond that. And I thought for a school to accommodate that was not such a big deal. And so it was an important lesson learned in my early years, and I've always kept that as a reference point in my life, even though I've spent around 18 to 19 years in school now. And I feel like whenever I've had a child of determination, despite the fact that schools are so privileged to have special needs departments now, every child has an individual education plan. Technology has taken over, and things have become so much more accommodating for our children of determination. Still, it's extremely important to sit down with the parent and ask them before anything else as to what are their expectations for their child, what is it that they want for their child, and be able to provide that.